Chivos here, bringing you another Hyundai A-League fixture review for the fixtures of week 14. And now we are halfway through the season. That is right, halfway through already. What a quick journey it's been. So let's have a look at some major fixtures. Really, at the halfway point, a few things have changed, but not too much. So the first game of the weekend saw a 6-goal thriller between Central Coast Mariners and my team, Melbourne Victory. Now, both teams only managed to take a point in a high-scoring draw, but it's not bad for either side. Central Coast were up 3-0 at halftime before Kevin Muscat inspired the boys of Melbourne Victory to come back and score 3 goals in the second half. Now, as you guys already probably know, I do cover the Melbourne Victory videos in another video, and I will leave that in the description below, so make sure you check out that link. Now, the second game of the weekend saw Sydney FC beat Newcastle Jets 2-0. Holosko opened the scoring in the 15th minute after putting a goal past Birighetti, but there's one other name we need to mention here. Ali Abbas was substituted in the 71st minute, and it took him less than 10 minutes to score a goal on his return. Abbas hadn't played a game of football in about 14 months. Huge time away. I think he did his ACL, and he was gone for a very, very long time. He did come on for Sydney FC, and he did make a bit of an impact. He scored, and you got to be proud of him. After missing, I think it was over 400 days of football, to come back and score, it was incredible. So Newcastle Jets had another shocking performance and failed to record a shot on target during the whole game. Newcastle need to find their striking boots, because the other reason is Newcastle, they've now equaled English. Come on. Newcastle have now equaled an A-League record, and that is 6 consecutive games without a goal. The Jets have not found the net in 559 minutes, and it equals the record of New Zealand Knights, who no longer are in the competition. So, huge there from Newcastle not to score in 6, but I'm sure they'll do something in the January transfer window. I think they're going to have to. Now, the third game of the weekend saw Melbourne City beat none other than Western Sydney Wanderers 3-2. Now, Navio opened up the scoring early on when he scored a sensational free kick. Then Bruno Fornaroli added a second goal for City in the 24th minute, giving the hosts a 2-0 lead and adding to his goal scoring tally. You know, the way I see it, every time Berisha scores, Fornaroli scores. Every time Fornaroli scores, Berisha scores. It's a bit of a continuous thing going on now. Mitch Nichols scored the first for Western Sydney with a long-range effort that was misread by Thomas Sorensen. Western Sydney Wanderers added a second and levelled the scores when Aaron Hughes unfortunately deflected a cross into the back of his own net. Now, Navio once again scored and managed to get a brace. It was a late winner, and Melbourne City managed to beat Western Sydney Wanderers and beat their 10-game unbeaten streak. So Melbourne City will be very happy about that. Beating top of the table and gaining 3 points on them is going to be crucial. It's also crucial for the likes of Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne Victory as well. It was an unfortunate result for Western Sydney Wanderers, but they did also see a goal disallowed, which ultimately could have made the difference. So they tried to play a free kick early. Paddy Kaznorbo wasn't in the right spot. The goal was disallowed. Navio went up the other end and scored the winner. So unfortunately there for Western Sydney Wanderers, but Melbourne City proved to be the better side. Now, the fourth game of the weekend saw Adelaide United beat a disappointing Perth Glory 3-1. Now, Glory opened the scoring in the 6th minute when Elrich was unable to clear across, which eventually ended up in the back of his own net. Now, poor Tammy Elrich, he will learn from his mistake. Now, Sirio scored the first for Adelaide in the 27th minute, and he managed to equalise from close range. But then, to add insult to injury, Alex Grant was sent off during injury time of the first half because he denied a goal-scoring opportunity which saw Craig Goodwin charging at goal, and he did lay a foul, and the ref said, look, it's a goal-scoring opportunity. It's going to have to be a red card. So then In the second half, it only took 2 minutes before Kruska added a second for Adelaide, which obviously gave them a 2-1 lead, and Perth Glory down to 10 men. You always knew they were going to struggle, but they did stay in the game for quite a long time until Craig Goodwin putting the nail in the coffin. He scored with the final touch of the match in the 94th minute to give Adelaide a 3-1 win and continue their run. So Adelaide United, 6 matches unbeaten. They've turned their season around. They're doing very well. And Perth Glory still struggling to get out of the bottom 4. So, they could have gotten out last week. 2 defeats in a row has ultimately cost them. And then the final game of the weekend saw a 0-0 draw between Wellington Phoenix and Brisbane Roar. Now, obviously, Brisbane Roar without the likes of McLaren and Borrello, whereas Wellington Phoenix without a number of first-team players. So it's understandable that there was a 0-0 draw, but what can you do? So the main thing is, though, Brisbane Roar feel robbed after they had a penalty call overturned just after the half-hour mark. Thomas Browich headed the ball into the crossbar. The ball came back into play, and it looked as though Durante used his arm to guide the ball away from the goal and from Enrique, who was also on him. The referee gave the penalty, blew his whistle, pointed to the spot, but then he consulted with his linesman. His linesman said, "You've made the wrong decision." So the referee overturned his penalty decision. Now, I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do in football. Let me know in the comment section below. But ultimately, I don't think you should change your mind. Once you've called something, you've called it, and that is that. So what can you do, though? So Wellington ended up getting the free kick, and Brisbane were unlucky not to have a penalty, and they could have won 1-0, but unfortunately it just wasn't to be. So Wellington are now 5 games without a win. They'll be happy to pick up a point, considering they had 7 first-team players unavailable for the fixture. Although Brisbane Roar will be disappointed with a 0-0 draw, especially considering the penalty shout. But Brisbane Roar will be happy because they have drawn and Western Sydney Wanderers have lost, which puts them a point adrift at the top of the table. So speaking of the table, we will go to that right now, and I can show you the current A-League ladder. So if you look at the top of the ladder here, Brisbane Roar, 28 points, have a 1-point gap over Western Sydney Wanderers. Only one bit of movement in the table this week. Saw Adelaide United push up to the top 6, and Wellington Phoenix dropped out of the top 6 now. Western Sydney Wanderers were unable to pick up a win, whereas Melbourne City and Sydney both picked up wins. So they both picked up 2 points on Brisbane Roar and 3 points on Western Sydney. So it's huge there, because now there's 4 people in the title race, and Melbourne Victory are potentially still in it too. They're only 7 points off the top now. A huge turnaround when they were struggling before. So 7 points between first and fifth isn't too bad. 11 points between first and sixth. I don't think any of the bottom 6 can now push. Looks like it's actually going to turn into a 2 top half and a bottom half race. Whereas before, it really looked like it was going to be a 2-horse race up the top. But now it's really changed considering the fortunes of this weekend. So obviously Sydney FC and Melbourne City both drew wins. So they both added points. Melbourne Victory picked up a draw. So they did add a point against Western Sydney Wanderers, but they were unfortunate not to add a point to Brisbane Roar, who also drew. Adelaide United obviously beat Perth Glory, while Wellington Phoenix drew 0-0. So although Wellington picked up a point, Adelaide United picked up 3, which saw them overtake Wellington. Newcastle Jets lost. Nothing happened to them. Perth Glory lost as well. Nothing's happened to them. And of course, Central Coast Mariners did pick up a draw against Melbourne Victory, but still sit bottom of the table on 9 points. But I do have to give a shout out to Central Coast. They played a very young squad. They dominated the first half of the match, and they were unable to hold on in the second half. And if they can keep performing like this, then I'm sure they can pick up points, and maybe they might even climb from the bottom of the table. But we'll look at the important thing now. The golden boot at the moment. Bruno Fornaroli has 12. Bessart Brish has 10. Nichols and McLaren on 7. Krishna on 6. Don't forget, McLaren is away on international duty for the rest of the month, I do believe. Roy Krishna is injured for at least 3 months, so practically to the end of the season. So really only two main horses in it, with Mitch Nichols following behind. So Fornaroli or Brisha, put your money on them. Tell me who you think in the comments section below. Most assists, Aaron Moy has 9 now, smashing it. Browich only has 5, so 4 behind him. And Jamison, Nevio, and Holosko there as well. Most saves, Sorensen, of course, 65 saves, smashing it. Ante Kovic is up there. Birighetti slowly dropping down the table. But Thomas Sorensen looks like he's going to take that. Completed passes, of course, no point talking about it. It's never going to change. Miguel Angel Garcia Perez. Maybe when it changes, then we can talk about it. And most clearances now. Andrew Durante on 54. German, Kiznorbo, Manny Muscat, and Poscliero. So since Ben Sigmund has been injured, he has dropped from the most clearances table. And that's probably pretty heartbreaking for him, considering he was smashing it earlier in the season. But that is it for today's episode. Make sure you leave a like if you're enjoying the content. Subscribe to see more of it. And hopefully I'll catch you guys on another video.